Today's guest is from San Diego, California. Went to Cal State Fullerton, where he broke numerous records as a quarterback. Also helped lead his team to a College World Series win. Was drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the 7th round before heading north to the CFL, where he was a 4-time Grey Cup winner, three-time Grey Cup MOP, a CFL MOP, Most Outstanding Player, in year 21 of his 23-year pro career. When he retired, he was first all-time in passing yardage with 72,381, tied for third all-time in rushing yardage with 11,920 yards, combining for 84,301 total yards as a pro. Welcome to the show, one of the greatest athletes and competitors ever, and CFL Hall of Famer, Damon Allen.
Man, hey, it's always great to be on your show too, because
almost
you always
died trying to say all that.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to hold your breath for 10 seconds, make sure you don't have the COVID. So, but no, I think when you do that introduction, I'm always, it always brings me back to, man, it's almost like Picasso. Like you never appreciate what you've done until you actually gone and you're away from the game. And every time I think of when someone, spits out like what you just done in your career, I always go back to the year that I didn't play football. My 10th grade year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
My 10th grade year where I thought I was too small, so I didn't play. And it was this coach who wanted me to play the last 5 games on their JV team. He said, once you come out, because we saw you play in Pop Warner, and we know you can play this game. And for me, it's like when I seen these guys, I was like, man, they big. I'm done playing. And I started just playing baseball. But the coach eventually, convinced me to play the last 5 games. And the 5 games that I played in the JV team in my 10th grade year, I threw 20 touchdowns in 5 games. Oh, and then the next year, I was the starting quarterback of varsity. We won CIF, and then we won CIF again. My 12th grade year, lost 2 games in those 2 years, and then I got a scholarship to go to university, right? So in that mindset, it's always crazy when I think back, how important it is to believe in your skills, believe in yourself, and don't allow anything that can distract you from actually accomplishing what you can. And I always believe like self-doubt is the biggest tool against individuals than anything else, because self-doubt, because I thought I was too small, literally took me away from the very thing that I was passionate about, was football.
How big were you then?
Oh my goodness. I don't know, because I used to tell you, I said I was only about 160 pounds in the CFL, so I can't even imagine how much I weighed. 130?
Wow.
130 pounds, 135 pounds playing high school football.
How tall are you?
By that time, now I'm like 6'1", but like saying during that time, I might have been like 5'10".
Oh, wow.
If that, 130-something pounds. So you can imagine, like, talking yourself out of not playing when you see these guys like 200-something pounds and they're big. But I always, even though I was questioning my size, I never questioned my skill set when I step on the field.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I didn't. And so it was that coach, and that's why I always are big on amateur coaches, high school coaches, because it was a coach who got me back into football and saying that you can do it. I saw you play when you were in Pop Warner.
Oh, yeah, that's the special part, right? Is
yes.
The people that see something in you that you don't see in yourself at the time, and then you go and make it happen. And that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of accomplishments through the career, through the years. How you been right now with everything going on?
As far as health-wise?
Yeah.
Health-wise, I've been good. I mean, now it's, I think, year 11 out of the game in the CFL. I haven't had any issues as far as health-wise, still run and throw and still do all these things. So I'm very thankful there to be able to leave the game healthy and haven't had any issues from leaving the game. But it really comes back down to, like, if you're healthy, you do as much as you can to give back and make a difference, right? That's always been one of my things, is to give back to community, because that's what was taught to me in San Diego, among 5 brothers and a one girl in the Allen household. And it was quite competitive, but at the same time, my father was that very amateur coach. He was the baseball coach when we played. He was a football coach. He coached my brother, Harold and Marcus. And so he was always involved, and my mom was always involved in team sport. Was the team mother, as you always say, the father's coaching, the mother's the team mother. When we stayed at the baseball diamond, we stayed at the baseball diamond the whole day, because there's 4 brothers playing on 4 different teams. Yeah. So in that aspect, you just continue on with what was taught, what was ingrained in you about giving back. And it would always be, to me, I always thought it would be a shame to have all this information and knowledge and not share it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it easier to do the things that you do and have joy in doing it, because a lot of the kids that I see, they have some of the same, aspirations and the brightness in their eyes when you see them about teaching them something. And then there's some kids that, man, you can make it, bro, as long as you just believe and put in the work.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And I always notice kids that, because I know that pro sports is more about mental, how well you can learn, how well you can apply, and things like that. It's not just talent. Like, talent will give you more opportunities. So you can get cut 10 times if you have a lot of talent. Where if you don't have a lot of talent, you're only going to get cut once. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. And you're going to be looking for another job.
Exactly.
Yes.
So talent's going to give you more opportunities to make it there. But when I train kids, I always look at who can pick something up. Well, out of the first 2 or 3 times we talk about it, can they go out and apply it? And that's how I kind of gauge how well they can do.
Right.
Right. You've worked with quarterbacks for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you look at when you're looking at these young quarterbacks, and what do you try to teach them, and what are some of the things you see in them to know that they're going to be successful?
It's funny, with my show, I always ask the same question: what is the 3 characteristics a quarterback must have to really be successful? And I think it goes along with this question. So when I see quarterbacks, and there's a lot of characteristics that make of a really good quarterback and a great quarterback, and they all need to have. But I think my 3 most important, I would say decision-making is 1. Their ability to make good decisions is 1. Number 2 would be accuracy. Accuracy in throwing the ball after they've made that decision, and how sharp they could be in pitching and catching with the receivers. And then number 3, I say toughness.
Yeah.
Mental toughness, physically being tough, because if I explain to you, then you'll say, man, number 3, toughness might be number 1, because if you don't show, for a quarterback, you don't show no toughness in the pocket, it will affect your decision-making and accuracy.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
Stepping in there to make that throw when you know you're about to take a hit.
Right. And we all know quarterbacks that we play against, and some of the things we just say, man, all you got to do is hit them in the mouth and they're done. Yep. Right? So even though I put toughness as number 3, toughness really is number 1. It's the toughness of taking on criticism. It's a variety of different things that they have to show toughness with. And if they can show that aspect of it, then they could be on their way, because you can teach accuracy. Yeah. You can teach better decision making. And so for me, it's those 3 that I actually build, that I look at a quarterback for those 3 things, even though, like I said, they have other attributes that is cool and that's needed, confidence and all those things. But those are my 3: toughness, decision making, and accuracy.
And that has
And
nothing to
if
do
they
with skill. That's
has
awesome.
nothing to do with skill.
And see, that's what I
And
tell
if you-
kids. Like,
And if you
that's
have
important.
if you have the skill that matches all those things, then you have the ability to, to write your own story and your journey and, how your story is going to end.
Yeah.
So for me, when I look at this quarterback, number one is toughness. I got to see how tough you are. Can you take criticism? Do you fall in the tank? If you're getting criticized, or do you push to get better and all those different things? And, a lot of those things you don't think about when you're actually, evaluating yourself. But I eluded all those things. I had all those things.
Does quarterbacks get too much credit and take too much blame? Because in the beginning, from the first time I played football, it was always taught defense wins championships. But now, for some reason, over the last 10 years, it's really been, we know that you have to have a good quarterback to win games consistently, right? If you don't have a good quarterback, you can't win consistently. You can win games, but you can't win consistently.
Right.
So how do you feel about the narrative changing over from defense wins championships to now quarterbacks having to win championships to submit to their legacy?
Well, I think it's two different plates that we're talking about. Like when we talk about just the overall team game, football, I still believe in that aspect that defense do win championships. And I always say that offense just brings the entertainment, right? That makes the game exciting and those things. And the teams that I've been on that won championships, they all were pretty good defensive teams.
Yeah.
At some point, at some point they moved into a really good defensive team. And so in that aspect, yes, they stop teams from scoring, which is when you look at all sports, they're all pretty much the same. You defend and you score, and now in between is how you play the game. So we look at all sports, it's built just like that. As far as the quarterback and figuring out their legacy, it's always built around championships. So for a quarterback to have a legacy or to consider to be great and all those things, it's always been championships have to be in the conversation of a really good quarterback. Now, we can dissect some quarterback and say, man, this guy was really good. But you don't talk about him being the greatest because you don't have no championships. For example, Dan Marino.
Yeah.
Pound for pound, throwing, accuracy, decision-making, all those things. Dan Marino was great.
Yeah.
He was one of the first ones, damn near threw for 5,000 yards his first year, went to the Super Bowl, and he had all the attributes of being really good in the pocket and decision-making and throwing the ball. But no one talks about Dan Marino when it comes to being all-time great because he don't have any championships. And so for a quarterback, it makes it tough because that's what you're judged on, right?
Yeah.
You're judged on championship at the end of the day, right? So, and there's quarterbacks that have multiple opportunities to have championships. Like, for example, Anthony Cavill. The guy been to 8 Grey Cups.
Only
the guy
3.
has 3 rings.
Yeah.
Does that hurt you? Rings. Well, did that hurt me?
No, does that hurt him? Getting to 8 and only winning 3.
I would think so, because part of the 3 was the penalty, the missed field goal that Saskatchewan should have won that game, 13 men.
Yeah.
So that's part of his 3.
You had that part of the 3.
Right. So yeah, you would have to look at the legacy, the times he'd been there. Did he fulfill? Did he? You got to look at all those things, right?
Yeah.
And so, that he had a great career, absolutely. The guy is the all-time leading passer in pro football. That's 78 78,000 yards, man. So you got to look at that aspect, compared to, anyone else. But the fact of getting there 8 times, I mean, I know if I had been there 8 times, and based on my percentage of winning and losing, then
you played in 5, right?
I played in 5
and got 4.
And 4, like and there's one of them I didn't even really play in. So there's there's 3 games that I started in, and 1 that I came off the bench and won.
And did you win all the ones you started?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like I said, it doesn't take anything away from, his greatness and those things, but those are the conversations that, probably real guys will look at and say, well, man, the guy been to 8 times. If Brady would have went to 8 or 9 and won just a few, they still would be saying that Joe Montana is the greatest because he went to all 4 and 1.
Yeah.
So, and before that, I mean, look how many he had to win just to even pass Joe Montana. Right?
He has, 6 now?
Yes. And I think he's been, 8 times?
Yeah.
6 out of 8.
That's crazy.
And the 2 that he didn't win, they were winning in those games. The Giants beat him twice. So if he didn't play the Giants or probably played anybody else, the guy would probably have 8 on 8. 8 Super Bowls to
– And that one, just the ball just stuck to David Tyree's helmet.
Right.
And Eli gets out of the sack twice and just throws it up.
Absolutely.
Think about that, man.
And I mean, think about that. Like Eli, if you look at Eli's career, and then those 2 Super Bowl wins are like they put him in the conversation of being a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
If he didn't have those 2 wins, you would never assume that Eli career would be a Hall of Fame career.
No, because he didn't win consistently.
Mm-mm. And if you just look at his numbers, I mean, they're not impressive either as well.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, right? So, but the fact that he won those 2 Super Bowls put him in those conversations.
What do you think about Pat Mahomes' new contract? Because at first everybody was all big on it. Now they're kind of dissecting it. What do you think about it?
Well, the way they're talking about it, if he can make that amount of money and then still be, team friendly to be able to sign other free agents. I mean, I think that's a smart thing to do. And the fact is, for him, as talented he is, he has a really good system that fits, his skill set, and which makes it more dangerous. Because just imagine if he was with somebody else's system and not the Kansas City Chiefs system. Really how good he would be. Or if you look at, I always dissect to see really how good is he, right? And he's clearly going to get better.
Yeah.
He's already good right now. And he's, he's a joy to watch too.
Yeah. I think he said last year was the first year he actually understood defenses.
Which is scary. Which is scary. But then I always look at him and say, let's see how good he is. Like, how good would Russell Wilson be if he was in that system?
Yeah.
They would be pretty good still. Or Lamar Jackson was in his system.
He's so special.
But that makes him even more special because the way he can throw the football is different from Lamar Jackson. And like I said, the closest thing to me, to him is probably Russell Wilson, right? When you look at quarterback play and decision-making and just being solid, from every aspect of the game. And so when somebody was asking me, I think my ex Desiree asked me, who in today's game will you be very similar to? And I was like, oh. And she thought Mahomes.
Yeah. Who do you think, Russell?
I had a combination of Russell and Holmes.
Yeah.
But I said I like the discipline of Russell, of playing the position. but like saying the creativity of Mahomes, I said that's what I thought I had. The creativity, the way I played was of Mahomes, because like he's just out there playing, right? Like it's sandlot football. Yeah, but he, like saying, the discipline, and his discipline is going to continue to grow and get better, because now when he starts to get like Russell Wilson mindset and how to play the game, then it becomes very easy. The game's like becomes slow motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the part when you want to see, it's like, okay, when the guy gets it, like you said, he's just now started to understand defense. The guy could put up points, man, as fast and yeah. So like when he starts to understand defense, the game's gonna be really slow for him, and he can make all the throws already.
That game against the Titans, when they're down 21-0, and then by halftime they're up 28-21.
Do it. It's unbelievable, man. And you're right. And don't let him get a good defense.
It's crazy.
Now, if they all of a sudden come back to the old Kansas City Chiefs defensive team, man, there's no telling how many Super Bowls that they can win.
Yeah. I believe, he'll probably play another 13, 15 years if he can stay healthy.
No, absolutely. And for him, it comes down to like health.
Yeah.
Health. Because like I said,
arm.
he has everything in place. Like for him to to springboard.
How long do you think he can play with that arm strength before it starts to go down, and then can he still be successful without it?
As long as he doesn't have any arm troubles, he's going to throw like that all the time, man. Because that's the one thing that, like, when I looked at when I was throwing, and even now, like, I'm 50. I'll be 57 this year. And the way I throw the football now, it would be no different if you see me throw.
Really?
He was throwing the same way when he left the game. Right?
You still got the pop?
I still got the pop. Still got the pop. I can still drop down. I still throw on the run and have that little jump hop, throwing right. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, my left hand is better than it has been, like, because I throw left-handed too, right? And so those things you would say, like, man, this dude, man, because like he can still play, but I'm 57 years old, right? So the only thing different would be I haven't took a hit in 11 years.
That's a good thing.
Right, that's a good thing.
The recovery
right?
take a long time when you get older.
Right, absolutely, right. So I always say that I can make a team and be a backup, and if I just play a few games, few quarters here and there, right, come in or whatever it is, I can do that. But like to be able to play an 18-game schedule, like that's hard to do nowadays. And as you get older, because the wear and tear, week in and week out, I mean, that's something that at times it was difficult to do. Because of my 23 years, I pretty much started 21 of those 23 years.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's just crazy to think. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Before we get there, though, your golf game. Been working on the golf game. How's it looking this year?
Golf game's good. And I think part of it is due to the fact because I played in the Canadian Open last year.
Did you?
The Canadian Amateur Open. It's a whole different ball game, man. And let me tell you what I really learned. Like, you got to be in shape. You got to be in shape when you're playing these Canadian amateur tour, because now you're playing with guys that this is what they do for a living.
Yeah.
Like everybody who's on that, them amateurs, they can strike it, man. And for me is when they gave me the exemption to play in the Canadian Open, I was playing at this course, like preparing for it all the time. But the thing that I didn't do is I didn't walk. So I was using the cart the whole time preparing for it. But when the tournament came, I had to walk that course. And that's where it got me, because it was exhausting. Like the first round was exhausting. And we were playing a 7,000. That day it rained and it became windy, so the course became even longer. Like when you're playing, par threes at 233 yards.
Yeah.
It's playing 216, but with the wind and the rain, it was playing like 233. I was using a hydrant off the tee to get to the green. And so that made the course long and very difficult to play. But the grind of being exhausting after the first round, and then the next morning I had to tee off at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was like an early tee off, man. It was just like the wear and tear of preparing. Yeah. You got to be in shape. But the experience made me a better golfer, like overnight. And playing with, really good dudes. Like, the dude I was playing with, I was like, man, I don't even want to slow this dude down. Right? But I played all the par fours and par fives at probably 5 over the first day. Where I had the trouble was the par threes. I was plus 10 on the par threes. Okay. They were all long, and unfortunately, they had put in new sand and all the things with 2 or 3 days before, so the sand was really soft. And if you got in the sand, it was very difficult to get out because it was like pillow feather, So that was very difficult. But now, like, since I've played in that experience, it just made me a better golfer, like understanding like how to play, being more patient, your reads, and enjoying the game a little bit more, right? And realize like how difficult it is to be on tour or to be just an amateur making it is made me really appreciate like the time you have to put in to be good and consistent.
Yeah, I play with a guy out of Calgary he's got his pro card. That's a different golfer right there. We'll play, and it's just like, man, just to know the consistency, the sound swings, off everything, right? I remember the other day, me, him, and the brother-in-law went to play, and he hit a bad shot on a par 3 and rolled right up against the fence and had to go over sand and everything, and he holed it. And I was just like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, all the shots that they have in precise landing, where they want to put the ball, it's all those kind of details that, like, you don't really think about, like, when you're just playing. Like, part of my issue is, like, I think I can make every shot, right?
Yeah.
And there are times I just need to take my medicine. Like, you hit out of bounds, hit it back in the fairway, get a bogey, and get off the course, right? And get off that hole, right? But no, I try to make that shot and end up being a double or, sometimes triple because, I'm so aggressive when it comes to like, oh, yeah, I can make that shot, right? Yeah. No, bro, take your medicine. Go sideways. Don't go up. Right?
My dad talks to me a lot about golf, the course management now, right? Mm-hmm. Learning that because some courses I'll play and it'd be like 350s, 370 par 4s. Right. I'm like, oh, I could drive at 285, 300, so I'm gonna be within 100. He's like, well, if you're struggling with your 100 in game, why don't you hit it less and then go 150 out, and then you can hit that, So just learning that course management and not just always, I want to get as close to the hole as possible after the drive, and then we'll go from there.
No, absolutely. Because what ends up happening too is like the things that we don't work on either is like we want to drive down there. Okay, once you get down there, now you got a 50-yard shot. Like, how often do you work on a 50-yard shot?
Exactly.
Right? But, you might hit your pitching wedge really good from 110, 120 yards in, right? Your pitching wedge is really solid, right? It's like, okay, I just use my hybrid to get up there. I hit my hybrid about 2-something, and now I'm going to be 130 out, right? Which is a pitching wedge. And it's those kind of matters instead of saying, okay, I'm going to use my driver. Now, you got to hit your driver, straight to be able to get it in that neck area or whatever it may be at a 300, because they're always going to have a little bit of trouble on a hole that's 350.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Because you're trapped. Right. You're trapping yourself in to hit this shot. that you, like you said, you don't work on very much. I try to punch and run everything, but lately I've been playing courses that's really thick around the green, so I come up short.
This is me, right? So I played last week. We played with these 4 dudes I play with every weekend. So we play at this course. We tee off, boom, par 5. I hit one down on the right side. It's nice. Hole's playing like 525. I'm 220 in. So we had this conversation because I was like already going to the green. I said, I didn't get a good warm up, right? I didn't have a good warm up. And we were talking about like, man, like in this situation, I really want to just lay up. Yeah. And so he was like, yeah, I didn't have a good warm up session either. So 220 out, I bring out my 4-iron and I'm going, no, I should just lay up because like you said, I didn't hit no 4-iron on the green or warm up. I mean, I used no 4-iron at all. And so I got there and had this conversation, but otherwise I said, fuck it, I'm going for it, right? Hey, so here's the thing, and so I go for it. And it's like, when you look up there, it's like, it's so much trouble. Trees to the right, trees to the left. There's a ravine in front in the hole 220. And I said, I'm going to get there. End up pushing it right to the trees, right? And I had to take a drop. But then I hit one real tight, and I ended up getting a par. But at the end of the day, it's like if I'd have just said, hey, Damon, just lay up because, you're not loose yet. You're not warmed up yet. And those kind of things right now, you'll be shooting for birdie, right? Instead of that. And so that's the kind of stuff I be doing, right?
Hey, man, you be playing with Troy, too. Troy Mullins.
Yes. I played with her the Joe Carter event. And there's a few other girls that come to that event. And these girls, they play on mini tours and stuff. And so these girls can play, like Sasha, Miko. They were all at the Joe Carter's event. And they all got game, man. Like, I played with Shasta, and she shot 67, man. Play on these mini tours. They solid, right? But Mullen's long.
Yeah, you're going to put in a word for me, man. I need to get on the podcast. I need to get on the podcast.
She played in the American Century yesterday.
Did she?
She was down there in Lake Tahoe. Yeah, they let her play. So, because that was the first time I've seen a young lady in the American Century tournament televised, but she was in there.
What tees did she tee off when you played? Did she go she played from the men's tees in the back?
She was playing with us in the Joe Carter event.
Yeah, she was like the long drive champion, wasn't she?
No, she long, man. Yeah. She hit the ball a long way. Yeah, she hit the ball a long way. And her body structure, helps her with it.
Yeah, she puts it out there. Who's more popular in Toronto, you or pinball?
I would say pinball, to the fact that this is the only team he's been with. He's been the president. And like I said, when you're able to focus and be in one city at one time for all those years, I mean, clearly, he would be the most popular. Because, they talk about him having the ability to run for mayor in the city. So you had to be here a long time. They're talking about, pinball can run for mayor. But
you're more out there though.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of things just as well as him. But I've always looked at myself globally because I played on multiple teams. I played in BC, I played in Edmonton, played in Toronto, played in Ottawa. So I always looked at myself as a national, a national athlete.
Yeah,
because I played in all those cities.
I've
never had. That's why they always call me Nomad. Damon spelled backwards. They said they're Nomad because you don't have a home, but he's been in all these cities, right? So
that's it. We talked about your show earlier. How's that going? And how did you come up with the idea of the whole 9 yards? Your Instagram lives.
The whole 9 yards is the same as you want to know the absolute truth of an individual, and also the whole 9 yards will be the title of my book.
Okay.
So The Whole 9 Yards. That's where it all came about. It was the title of the book, the name of the show, and what it means, right? And then the fact that it had my number in it, and so it made it really cool to call it the. So when my book comes out, we call it The Whole 9 Yards, right?
And you've had some great
the
guests
absolute
on.
truth. Yeah, man. It's been cool because I've opened it up to a quarterback to quarterback segment, and then like this week I'm gonna have the great Brian Kelly on,
Awesome.
the receiver for the Eskimos that I played with. He also played with Moon, and so I told him I wanted to really dive in, have the comparison of the time he played with Moon, the time he played with me. The difference in the game, because this guy, he only played 9 seasons. He retired after 9 years.
He put up some numbers.
He averaged like over 100 touchdowns, had 11,000 yards in those 9 years. And that's one thing I wanted to talk to him about as well is, why did you retire after 9 seasons? Because he clearly could have went past that. And I wanted to talk about his route running, and because it's always been legendary about the film that was going around after he retired, how to run one-on-one routes, and the way he stemmed him, the way he ran his routes, the way he thought about and the fact, because he wasn't fast, but he was always considered like the Steve Largent in the Canadian Football League. So that's a pretty cool dynamic that I played with. And he was special, bro. I'm telling you. The way he thought the game. And, I mean, he would work on guys, like, throughout the game. And then when he tell you, like, right now, call this play. Like, when he tell you, now is the time that we run this post corner on him. Because I've been working on him the whole game. Like, man, for real? And then when he run it, man, it's whew. The guy's running to the post, he's running to the corner. I mean, that's how it was. Like,
been setting it up
the whole time, and the way he thought about route running was really cool.
We just talk about golf and the course management and things like that.
Right.
But you can tell like the greatest athletes are doing that constantly, right? They're setting up everything. I always knew in the fourth quarter what routes I could get open on it, right? By how the game was going, how aggressive a DB was, just how he was playing me and different things like that. So, but when you can do it mentally like that, it's very easy to go to the coach and say, let's do this, or,
right.
This is how I feel. Like, look, I've been setting this up, or, I used to run the out and up because I used to run the out so many times from the field. That out and up was just money. So I always knew. Right. And I would even give him a little bit of lean early. Like, I'm not tired, but I'm going to give you that little lean early, like I'm lazy with it.
Right.
So it's just great to see and to tap into great minds because of how well and how mentally they attack a game.
No, absolutely. And like the real great players really think of the game mentally and set things up. And they study their opponent, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that, great players do. They study their opponent. They understand, like, what routes they can run, what they're good at. When you know all those things, right, it makes the game a little bit easier. And then the timing of when to run those routes, because, Kelly, on running plays, like, that's when he would do the most radical stuff. He'll line up real tight and see positioning of what the corner would do, or he line up real wide, super wide, and see, he would come in how hard the lineup will be inside of him. Because I've never seen a guy like cover 3 run a post corner and get outside of the guy because he lined up wide. I mean, this dude would be lined up 2 yards from the line of scrimmage to get the guy inside the way he wanted to run the post corner on cover 3. And it's like, okay, because what the corner going to do? He's going to line up to the boundary with him? Like, he's going to go all the way to the sidelines with him? No.
So he's going to
let him. So he would do things like that
to
see, he would line up real wide to get inside and putting the guy right where he wants him to be. I'm like, man, you still ran a post corner on cover 3 and got outside the guy. Yeah. And so he would do things like that and be very creative, within the game, right?
That's the fun part.
That's the fun part.
On the, I always say, like, they have no idea what you're doing. You put them on strings, like you tell them where to go. And if you can do a good job of telling him where to go, you can always get open.
And you were a hybrid. I mean, when I first seen you play, and I'm like, man, this guy. I mean, you're like like that slash. I mean, because I wasn't sure when I first seen you. I wasn't sure if you was a running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you play slot. I was like, but this dude moves really good, right? Like, after you catch the ball, man, he got good feet. I was like, man, this dude is a problem, right? Because, like, once you get the ball in your hands, it's tough to bring you down, right? So you was that kind of hybrid player that, like, in our league, you didn't see.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Like, in the last 10 years, you didn't really see anybody like your size, your strength, your wide body, but you're a slot back and you can move, right?
Yeah.
So you can look back year in, year out and not say there ain't no Nick Lewis's out there.
I mean, BC tried to bring in AC Leonard to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So people have tried. They've tried to find bigger body guys, but like I said, it's more about the mental than it was the physical.
Right.
Right. And that's where you can't do it. Because I knew how to think my way through a game. I knew how to think my way through situations. And it had nothing. I always felt like, because I always tell my running backs last year, you have to play as if you
had good hands.
Yeah.
Too. So like I said, people try, but all the things that you brought, I mean, that's where you couldn't find in that person. They might find somebody that has the same body type, but catching the football, right? Blocking, reading hots, catching, flat balls and turning it up and like make a guy miss. And man, come on, man. That's why you Hall of Fame.
I appreciate it, brother.
It's just a matter of time.
I can't wait to
what
get
year
with
is this
you
for
guys. Next year will be my first year on the ballot. So
okay,
we'll see.
So is it 3 years or 4 years? I mean,
3
I
years.
can't even tell now.
I think it's
3 years.
Or I think you have to be out 3 years, and then on the 4th year you get the ballot. So
okay,
we'll see, man. We'll see. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning. Growing up in Southern California, you talk about your brothers. What was the age range difference between you and your brothers, and where did you range in there?
My oldest brother, Harold, is 4 years older than me. Marcus is the next number 2. He's 3 years older than me. And then we have a set of twins, Michael and Michelle. They're 2 years younger than me. And then there's a 13-year gap between my youngest brother, Darius.
Okay.
So that's the dynamic. So give you an idea of the gap. When Marcus was running for the Heisman at USC, Darius is only 3 years old.
Wow.
Right. So in that sense, I was a freshman in college. Darius was 3 years old, man, running around with the USC Letterman jacket on, rooting for the Trojans, and eventually he goes to USC as well. But yeah, the gap. That's the gap range. And so me growing up between my 2 older brothers, and then the twins are 2 years younger than me, it was almost like I was like that middle child, right? The middle child we didn't come real close until we were much older, So in high school, I didn't hang out with my Marcus or my brother Harold. And I didn't hang out with the twins because I was 2 years older than them. So I had my group of friends, and I grew up. So I was like the true middle child. They teased me that I was, I didn't look like everyone else, right?
They were all bigger.
We found you on the bread basket at the front porch, all those stories. But there's all love there. And so that's the dynamic of the family makeup. I was a middle child growing up as a kid.
Did you have the mindset you wanted to compete with those guys and the brotherly, always a competition, and you wanted to prove yourself? Or like when you were growing up and you started in sports, like how much influence did they have on you?
They had a huge influence because they started probably a little bit later than I did. And so it's always like the younger ones always learn more because they're exposed to more. And so, yes, my older brother, Harold and Marcus, were a huge influence because, me growing up, being the next in line, I learned a little bit earlier. So when they started playing baseball, they started playing baseball a little bit older, like 10, 11. I mean, I started playing baseball when I was like 7, playing Mighty Mites, and then junior the minor leagues, and then, playing in the senior leagues. So with that, yeah, I was exposed to a lot due to the fact because they had the what's the brothers? We have professional, the Jacksons, Monty Jackson, and I think Melvin Jackson and Monty Jackson. Mm-hmm. They both played professionally. They went to San Diego State, but Monty Jackson played for the Raiders, and the other brother played for the Rams. But they lived on our streets, so they were an inspiration too, growing up, knowing about the Jackson brothers. And I think one played for the Giants prior to. And then we had the Kirkendalls. I mean, we learned pretty much everything from the Kirkendalls. It was like 8 brothers. Yeah. And they and how we started playing is when the Kirkendalls used to walk home from school, they always had like uniforms on. Like they had a baseball uniform on, and then we run to and tell our dad, like, man, we want to play with the Kirkendalls they're playing. And my father always said, if you guys do it, you guys can't quit. And then that's how he started to become involved in sports and be involved in the Suns and being a coach. And so, with that, it was very competitive. Our brother was competitive. My father was competitive. And so we learned all that stuff from our dad because, as they would say, Chili Bo, we call him Red. Because he played baseball. He played football. He really taught us about, being part of a team, wherever the coach wants to put you, you play because you're helping the team. And it was those things and lessons that were taught that helped us, care about what we do. Yeah. Because he used to take us to work. And my father's in construction. And he used to say, well, this is what you want to do in life? Because he'd be out there working us hard, brother. Carrying lumber in the hot wood, taking nails out of, all those kind of things. My grandfather was a mason, so we would do cement work. That's hard work in the hot sun.
Yeah, it is.
And they used to always say, this is what you want to do in life. And we knew, no, this is not what we want to do in life. And so the dedication that we had, we understood hard work was, but learning those traits. I mean, even to this day, I'm like mad that I didn't learn any of those traits, right? Because whenever you want something fixed, you got to hire somebody to do it, right? You had that ability to do that. And so with that, but it was always life lessons for our dad. Whatever he was trying to teach us, hey, this is a lesson for you. And that's pretty much how we grew up. I mean, we didn't go on summer vacations. We spent all our summers at the baseball diamond or the football field and those things. And so we can appreciate now when I'm living in Canada and, you go to a family cottage, they come and invite you to your cottage and they understand that everything's relaxation and all that stuff, but it's really the same thing. Yeah. My whole family was at the baseball diamond. My whole family was at the football field when we were playing. And that was our family, coming together, staying together, spending time with one another. And so I can understand the difference in how I grew up compared to what, a Canadian family grew up, where they say we go to the cottage for the summer. We play baseball for, all summer or football all summer. And that was our time of family relaxation.
And the family got to be together.
Family got to be together. So, like I said, when we play at 9. We don't leave there till like evening time because, there's 4 different kids that are playing 4 different teams. And as soon as your game is over and like you off to the road, and playing, tackle football like all day long while your brother's playing his game, right? And so that's how we learn to play.
That's awesome. That is awesome. What was your favorite sport playing growing up? My
favorite sport was baseball. My favorite sport was baseball growing up. That's why when I was a kid, I always wanted to find a way to give myself options. So that's why I played baseball and football all the way through college.
Yeah.
So since I was a kid, because at the end of the day, like I said, what I wanted was the ability to be drafted in baseball and football, and then I can make a decision which is best for me. I was able to fulfill that, which really made it cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were you always a quarterback in football? Like from the first time you stepped on the field, what did you play?
No, I wasn't always a quarterback. My first 2 seasons, I believe I was a defensive back. I probably wasn't hitting nobody. Or first year I played free safety. And my second year, but we ended up winning a championship my first year playing free safety. And then I think the second year I was a DB, might have been a corner or something like that. And the ball was overthrown. So I just ran over there, picked it up, and I threw it back. And the coach says, hey, I think we found our quarterback.
Oh, wow.
So it was that experience, just throwing the ball back that introduced me to the position quarterback. Then after that, I've been a quarterback like ever since, which is kind of strange because I always say, are leaders born or it's taught? And I say that, everyone has something in them that can lead, or the characteristics that allows them to lead. But it's just like swimming, you got to participate, you got to put in the work to be able to learn to be a leader and how it works. So the quarterback position is a natural leadership position. And so I was thrown in and I had to learn how to do it. And that's when I started watching other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It was the first quarterback that I loved because I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I was a Joe Gilliam fan.
Oh, you a Steelers fan? Oh,
I was a Steelers fan.
Man,
growing
hurt.
up. And it's a funny thing, my brother Marcus always been a Raider fan.
Really?
Always been a Raider fan because he loved Jack Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time he was a defensive back. He was a safety, so he loved Jack Tatum. And so he always been that Raider fan. But me, I was a Steelers fan, and I love Tyree Bradshaw when he took over. But my first guy I ever seen was Joe Gilliam, man. He had them high whites on. he was built just like me, skinny, tall, but he could throw. And so that was the first quarterback that I seen that I was like, man, that's him, Joe Gilliam. yeah. And then during his time, and then you understand his history, what he had to go through, and then born in the '60s, where you have the understanding of, man, you got to be tough at this position. Yeah. They don't want you to play this position, and then, like I said, you start to read about Jackie Robinson. You start reading about Willie Mays. And, these are the stories that my father taught us, right?
Yeah.
You start to understand that, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And so when you get your opportunity, you got to stand because it's these people, the Jackie Robinsons, the Willie Mays, that open the doors for you. And,
yeah.
The Warren Moons and the Joe Gilliams, right? And those things. And that's how the mentality started from there, is to really appreciate and have a greater amount of respect for the game, whether it's baseball or football, due to the fact that there were times where colors couldn't people of color couldn't even dress in the same locker room.
Yeah, that's
but
crazy.
They can play the game, right? That's crazy, right? And so that's why, when I was in that position, right, becoming a starter, I had to take full advantage of it, and also had to represent, because there's another generation of quarterbacks coming after me, right?
Yeah, especially with the mindset that they used to say that blacks weren't smart enough to play
right.
the position. Right, just that mindset that you're not that you're not talented enough, you're not smart enough.
Hard enough. And that's why, even now, it blew me away when I read about the
announcer,
Fitz Pollard.
Oh,
the Fitz Pollard documentary. It's on YouTube. You should check it out. This is a guy who was at 1920s breaking in, and so we always think about like the Jackie Robinson and all that. No, Fitz Pollard was 1920, and he became a head coach. A head coach, and he was a player. And so that dynamic, what he was going through in 1920, man, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so even with that, history's always been very important to me, right? And I love to research history to get a true understanding, like where I am, not only, what history can do for me, but where I am presently, and then from presently, what kind of legacy you can leave, right? And so it's the three dimensions of time.
Yeah. When you were, I'll go ahead.
Go on.
I was just going to say, when you were in high school, you said you won the state championships, getting ready to go to Cal State Fullerton. What took you there? And did you have any other options?
That was the only school that let me play two sports.
Okay.
That was the reason why I went to Cal State Fullerton. There were some Pac-10 schools when I was coming out wanted me to play baseball, but not football. They weren't recruiting for and there were some schools that were just recruiting me for football, but you wouldn't let me play baseball. And so Fullerton was the only school, and I didn't really know much about Fullerton other than I knew they had a good baseball program, but they didn't, wasn't really nothing in the football, but even they're in the PCAA.
Yeah.
And the PCAA at that time was San Jose State, Fresno State, UNLV,
Randall Cunningham.
Pacific, Reading Cunningham. Yeah, I was in the same conference as Randall Cunningham coming out. My senior year, we were both co-players of the year. So we're competing against that, and then the PCAA at that time was the number one passing conference in the country, and it was a D1 school. And so my first year, I didn't start, but I was playing against some really, you're watching some really good players play. So I'm watching Steve Clarkson for the first time, and he's at San Jose State. And I'm watching San Jose beat Stanford, like John Elway. So John Elway was at Stanford. His father was a head coach at San Jose State. John Elway Sr. Was the head coach of San Jose State. And they were running like the run and shoot. And so it was Steve Clarkson. That was one of the first brothers I seen.
Yep.
And in our conference that ripped it up. I think when we played against him, I think he threw for like 400-something yards, 5 touchdowns. They had Mervin Fernandez on that team. They had Tim Kears, guys that we know of. You heard Tim Kears, right?
Yep.
Coach in CFL.
And Mervin just went to the Hall of Fame last year, I believe.
Absolutely. Mervin Fernandez was there. They had Will Height was the tailback that went to the league. Man, they was a squad, man. They ran us out of the gym, bro. And I was like, man, that's what Steve Clarkson, right? We know Steve Clarkson today is, the quarterback guru in the United States. And they were just putting up numbers. I mean, it was a throwing league, and I'm thankful I went to that conference because it really taught me the passing game too. And so that was the knee thing when I started to get to university, and then I started to, play. And then we played against, John Elway's dad, and he's still coaching in San Jose. And by the time my junior and senior year, we started dominating all those schools at Fullerton because we had a really good team. We won the PCAA my junior year. We had a 7-5 record. We won the conference, and then the next year we went 11-1, made the top 20. We would have been 12-0. We ended up being 12-0 due to the fact because we played Vegas and they forfeited those games because they were playing with ineligible players when we played them, and so they gave us the championship. But it was too late to go to the bowl game because when they did that, they were already doing I think it was the California Bowl. They were already in the California Bowl, and then where they're trying to get us in a bowl game, play against Mississippi Valley State with the Raisin Bowl or something like that. That was when they tried to get a game at Anaheim Stadium against Mississippi Valley State against Cal State Fullerton. They were trying to create a bowl to get us in there. But they ended up taking Iowa versus Texas.
Okay.
So my senior year, we didn't go to no bowl game, even though we had an 11-1 record. And then we had, so from there, did I think I was going to play college football? No. It didn't even dawn on me, bro. First of all, from our 10th grade year, I told you I didn't play football.
Yeah.
And then the 2 seasons the one CIFs, then next I have a scholarship to go somewhere. Yeah. And then from there, then it started to dawn on me like, okay, I'm being invited to the Senior Bowl. I'm being invited to found out I was the property of the Edmonton Eskimos, and then realized that, that's the team that Warren Moon went to, right?
Yep.
I was following Warren Moon by that time, and watched them play in the Rose Bowl. And so you get all these guys that you watch, and they become your heroes, and you pay attention to them, and then you think about going in the same pathway. Warren Moon was the one that got me to think about going to the CFL.
Wow.
It's because when I was watching him, and then I knew that because he didn't, when my brother went to the NFL, I was looking for Warren Moon. I said, where is he, man? He's not in the NFL. And then my brother's year in 1982, they strike. And then they start showing CFL games in 82. And then they start showing, living on the West Coast, they start showing Eskimo games. And then I said, man, that's where he is. He was the Edmonton Eskimos. And then my senior year, my coach didn't let me know that I was a property of the Eskimos because they had my rights since I was a sophomore. He let me know my senior year that, hey, there's a guy that used to come to your practice every day, watch you the last 2-3 years. He's a scout for the Eskimos, and his name was Ray Newman.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then that's how I started to look at coming to Canada, because I started watching Warren Moon. He was at the Eskimos. And then he's winning all these Grey Cups during that time. They were going on that 5 in a row.
5 in a row.
Right. And then I knew when the NFL was talking about changing my position, when I went to the NFL Combine, they were talking about changing my position. I knew that Edmonton wanted me to play quarterback. And that's how I eventually came to the CFL due to Warren Moon's influence and the fact that they wanted me to play quarterback.
Yeah. But you had baseball too, because you won the College World Series.
I had baseball too.
You got drafted by the Tigers. So when you're making these decisions, you said earlier you wanted to have options. Now you have the CFL, you have Major League Baseball. How did you make your decision on that?
Well, that decision was based on, I tell everybody, is participating. So at that time, by the time I got to college, I was a middle reliever spot starter. So there are times when you play a 3-game series and you may not even play, because at that time they were starting to bring in the closer, right? So the closer would come in 7 through 9. And so middle relievers, unless your starter gets lit in the first few innings, that's pretty much the time you will play. Because nowadays, I mean, they let the starter fight through now.
Yeah.
And so now middle relievers barely pitch now. And so for me, it started to get like, okay, being a middle reliever, man, you may go a 3-game series and you may not play at all. In football, I was a starter. I played in every game, right? And so I think that's when the decision started to make clear to me. It's like I love participating.
Yeah,
I want to be involved, right, in making a difference in a team, winning and losing. And I think that's when football started to take the number one precedent over baseball. It's because of the position I was playing. And it might have been different if I was a starter. Playing pitching every 5 days is a little bit different than a middle reliever. I got tired sitting in the dugouts, man, waiting to get your name called. You playing C games, back there, waiting for you to get warmed up. You get warmed up, sit back down. So I was like, no, I'd rather be a quarterback. You play every game. And I think that's when the decision made much easier for me to say I'm going to play football.
And I think it was 94. Your first CFL season was 1985.
85.
And in 94, I believe it was, you went to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right.
How did that come about? Like, you signed a contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates 10 years into your CFL career.
So that was very interesting, because it was during the time I signed with Hamilton, which was in 92. When I signed with Hamilton in 92, there was a scout. They're saying that they have these open tryouts in Pittsburgh Stadium. I'm like, yeah, open tryouts. And at that time, even though I didn't play baseball, I always wanted to, even though I was drafted out of college, I never experienced it, right? And that's when I started to realize, like, okay, I never experienced what it's like going to spring training and all those things. And so in 92, I signed with Hamilton. But at this time, I had the conversation with the baseball scout, was saying, hey, we'll give you opportunity to try out in this open tryout. And so on my off days, when I was playing with the Ticats, I was playing baseball with Hamilton Cardinals. So I would play baseball on my off days, like with this little semi-pro league. And I would pitch, throw, I would warm up, get back into baseball. Because like I said, baseball was always, something I enjoyed doing. And preparing for this tryout. And this tryout was part of the trade, me going back to Edmonton in 93. So I had to, after the 92 season, we go, the year before I got there, Hamilton was 3-15. I got there in 92. We went to the Eastern Final. We were 11-7, and we ended up losing the Winnipeg in the Eastern Final, not going to the Grey Cup. And so the next year, they thought that Don McPherson can do my job in Hamilton. And so I had to okay a trade. Edmonton wanted me to come back to Edmonton. So I had to okay the trade, Hamilton to Edmonton. And then I said, well, I got this tryout coming too. So I okayed the trade to go back to Edmonton, because, when you believe that, I think we think Don McPherson can do your job. Like, okay, you think he can do my job? I'll go back to my former team, because, I left a good team. So I okayed the trade. On the way, so we decided we wanted to, at this time, my wife and my children, we decided we wanted to drive. And the only way we drive is because we wanted to drive, stop off in Pittsburgh from Hamilton, drive down, stop in Pittsburgh, do the tryout, and then drive on to Edmonton. And so when I did that, at the time I'm prepared, been like throwing all year. the deal goes through. I go down to Pittsburgh. I always say that, when you want to perform and you given the time that you got to perform, this is your time, bro. You got to perform. Yep. So I'm in Pirate Stadium in front of their head scout, the GM, the president of the club, and all this stuff. And I get on the mound, and I'm throwing the fastball at 91, 92 miles an hour. I was throwing the slider, my breaking ball, like everything that I was pitching, right? It was like, man, okay. And they're asking me, like, where you been? I said, I've been playing football the last 10 years. He said, well, we want to sign you. So I said, okay, I'll sign. We want you to come to spring training in 94. So I signed. And then when I get to Edmonton, I tell the Eskimos that, I'm going to go play baseball in 94, spring training. But I signed the 2 remaining years on my deal was 93, 94. And so get back to Edmonton. We go back to Edmonton, start the season off. We play in my former team, the Ticats. And I'm sitting there, they all talking about, how your teammates going to be, oh, yeah, we know you good. I said, yeah, so no. Right? We hit them I think we beat them like 45-7 in Commonwealth. I put up big numbers. And then we finished the season. We won the Grey Cup in 93.
Mm-hmm.
And so we won the Grey Cup. I go back to training to get ready for spring training. And then 94 comes wrong. I go to spring training, and I go there for like 3-4 months. And at this time, I'm actually doing pretty good in spring training, like pitching good, pitching well. And what happens is what you don't realize in baseball, they put all their prospects in AA. They don't put them in AAA. They put them in AA.
Yeah.
So guys go from AA to the big leagues. And so I started off in spring training playing with the AA team and the AAA team. And then what happens in baseball is it's this trickle down effect. So when some guys leave from the big leagues, it's a trickle down. So AAA, AA. And so all spring training, I'm pitching good. I was starting pitcher. Every 5 days I'm pitching, doing well. Then all of a sudden, the last week, then I'm supposed to go to the AA franchise, right? Because they had to fast track me because I'm 30 years old. They had to see if I can, pitch. They had to see if I can pitch at that level. And then by the time the last week goes around, I'm taking pictures for the AA team. The last week, I got tripled down to the A-ball, Winston-Salem. And so me with the coach there, and he said, well, I don't know who you are. I didn't see you pitch in the big league. We're going to make you a middle reliever. I go from, being a starter all summer and spring training to a middle reliever. So that's the thing that really started my right. So at this time, I'm going down there, and then we're playing in a ball stadium that, is 290 down, around the whole stadium. So a pop fly was going out. Yeah, pop flies are going out. Now, I was playing in a big stadium, was 340 down the line. Pop flies were staying in the stadium. But there, you had to keep the ball low, down, because pop flies, they were, high ball where you think, you pitchers, you pitch the ball and they hit the ball and you go like this. It's a pop fly. It's staying in the stadium. And you look back and the guy's at the edge of the back of the fence back there. You're like, oh, this is a home run. So that's how that all came about. And then I ended up coming back to Edmonton because they weren't willing to invest any money, even though I was pitching well down there. They weren't willing to invest any money. So eventually I had to make a decision to come back to football.
That's crazy.
And then during that time, I had a chance to pitch against Michael Jordan and play against him with the AA. My brother was down there. Spike Lee was down there. I mean, it was pretty cool, to experience that because he got bumped down to AA and he was playing with the White Sox. So we played against them. I think I pitched 5 innings through a 2-hitter against the AA team there. But like I said, at the end of the day, it came down to they weren't willing to invest in the 30-year-old. So
yeah,
that's the decision I had to make to come back to football.
And then they had found out like how much money you're making. It was a newspaper because, you know, it was always Canadian columnists would come down there, write stories. And then, you know, even that coach said, you're a veteran, you know how to, operate, look after some of these. Nah, bro, I'm not here to babysit. I'm here to almost like willing to give up a year of football to really try to make it. And so that's what I was trying to do. But like I said, the coach didn't really know me. And that was the unfortunate thing because he wasn't part of the fast tracking that I needed to see if I can pitch, right?
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate during that time I just made the decision to come back. And that was really the first time I've ever like quit something to go back to something.
Got to be a great experience though, to know that you gave it a shot, you enjoyed it, and you had right.
And I think that was the thing that when I look back, I said that's what made me believe that if I'd have won baseball from the beginning, I would have made it.
Yeah.
If I'd have left right out of college and went to Detroit, because if you understand, during the time when I got drafted by Detroit Tigers won the World Series that year in '84. I got drafted by. And then after that, they had those down years, right?
Yeah.
And so I would have been a pitcher during those times, right? I would have made it to the big leagues because the only best pitcher that was there at that time was Black Jack McDowell. Jack
McDowell?
The pitcher that Jack McDowell was their best pitcher during that time. But then, like I said, that let me know I would have made it to the big leagues, but would have been pitching in the big leagues during that time. But it was like the experience was amazing because it's a sport I enjoy, and then it's a sport that I realized I've been out of the game 10 years, but it didn't feel like I missed a beat. So the guy said, your arm is still wiry, still strong. I said, well, I've been throwing football, 13-pound football these last 10 years. So, yeah, it still remains strong. And I always had the ability to, go from one sport to another and not have that much change in the development of throwing.
Yeah.
Because it's a different motion. Not really. It's not really a different motion. That's why Mahomes is the way he is, because his ability, because he plays baseball, his ability to drop down and throw and drop down to different angles and throw the football, I'm pretty sure it's easy for him to.
10 years after that, you win a Grey Cup. Pinball becomes the first black head coach to win a Grey Cup.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I was on the sidelines, by the way, so I enjoyed that.
When you understand the history of it, then it becomes like much bigger. Knowing that, man, pinball is the first coach of African descent to win a Grey Cup. Like when you think of the history of the game, that's crazy, right? That's kind of history you would like to be involved with, right? And knowing that history is important to you. And so that's what made that Grey Cup even more special when you find out that history, that pinball became the first person of color to win the Grey Cup. Since then has been the only other person was Chamberlain.
Yep.
And who else? Just Chamberlain?
Just Chamberlain.
Just Chamberlain.
Yeah. In 13, Corey won it.
That's right. So it's only been 2.
That's it.
Of the history of our game.
Orlando would have been 3.
Orlando would have been 3 if they would came to the stadium and played. Clearly, Winnipeg was a different team. Facing the Ticats. I believe the Ticats were favored based on their season and what they were able to do. And I was trying to get the quarterback, Dane Evans, to share, but he wouldn't share because I wanted to know, what did they do different? Because the 2 previous years, they were dominating Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But what changed in the Grey Cup? So he didn't want to say that they didn't do nothing different, but
Winnipeg's defense really took over in the playoffs. They really became a game changer. in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They thought they could win games by themselves, and they basically did.
No, absolutely. When it came down to it, and like then the move to go to Caleros was crucial too.
Yeah.
Because I think, do you think they would have won with Nichols? I'm
No.
not sure. Because he's never shown that he can get past the first round, or even show that he had the capabilities of, like, rising his game to the to the way it should be when you play at that level, right?
Yeah,
you got to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
It ain't like a regular game. It's 15 million, half the country watching on those big games.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so you have to raise your game to that level. But that's how you remember too, right?
Yeah.
If I ask you, Nick, what did I do the year we won in '93? What I do game 10, you wouldn't know. But you would know what I did on Grey Cup Sunday in '93, right? And so those are the things I think as quarterbacks, things I dreamed about, like ever since I was a kid, like playing in those big games or making the big throw or, running the crucial run to keep a first down going, or to run a touchdown, or hosting up a trophy. Like these are the kind of dreams that we have as kids, throughout our lives, thinking about, like saying, you making the big catch in the championship game. Because I always say, like, man, what's the most famous catch in CFL history that you're reminded of? They always show it.
Most famous catch.
Right. They always show it on the highlights.
You mean in the Grey Cup game or just in a game?
They always show the Gabriel.
Yeah.
Right.
They do show that all the time. Yeah.
They showed it all the time, right? And I believe that. I want to say that was in a Grey Cup game.
That was a Grey Cup. Yeah, it's like the Tony Clark catch.
Right. And I'm like, man, I said, Tony Gabriel, bro, you become like instant popular just on that video they show year in and year out. Your famous corner catch route. And so those are the things that we dream about, right? As a kid, if you're a receiver or you're a quarterback and those things. And that's why when I got in those games, I felt I was at my most relaxed state. I've dreamed about it so much, right?
Yeah.
Focused on things so much, and then when I got in those games, it's like, okay, I've been here before. It's like deja vu. Like I've been in this game before. I don't have to be nervous and all those things. It means I played this game already.
Excited for the moment. Out of everything you've been through, all the awards you won, what would you say was probably the most special? Was it the Hall of Fame? Was it winning the MOP at 42 years old? The only person to win it older was Gordie Howe at 46 in their league. Was it the Grey Cup MVPs? Was it getting drafted? What would you say was the number one thing that stands out to you in your amazing career and life achievements?
Being inducted in the Canada Sports Hall of Fame was like the biggest, because now you're talking about the country's Hall of Fame, being part of that, and living in Canada and doing all these things. I didn't know that that I was eligible. I didn't know Americans were eligible for that, and so I would say being involved, being inducted in the Canada Sports Hall of Fame is the biggest, because, like I said, that's the biggest sports honor in Canada.
Yeah,
is being in the country's Hall of Fame. And so, to me, that would be the greatest. But as far as in the game of football, I think being the league most outstanding player at 41, 42 years old really validated when I was in my prime, the guys you're going against. I mean, I was going against, if you look at the quarterbacks I was playing against during my time, I think I was playing against six to seven Hall of Famers I was playing against on a daily basis, game in and game out, compared to, probably some of the quarterbacks that you're seeing today, like Bo Levi's playing against. Not saying that they eventually won't be, but the level of competition at the quarterback spot, that's the team that's what I'm talking about. Like you have to go against Flutie, you got to go against Dunnigan, you got to go against Tracy Ham, you got to go against Jeff Garcia, Dave. How's yours? Okay, you back?
Yeah. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, you just like you were frozen.
That's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, you were talking about, I heard the Dave Dickinson and Dunnigans and Tracy Hams. And
yeah, I was saying that, week in and week out, man, you're playing against, really good quarterbacks, and you had to go out there and perform, right, on a consistent basis. I said the level of competition at the quarterback position, to me, at times, was much greater than what the quarterbacks are playing against today. When we look at the best quarterbacks in the league, I mean, what names, when you look at the best quarterbacks in the league,
we clearly know Mike and Mike Riley and Bo are in a class of their own.
Right.
And then you have a second tier of guys.
Right.
But there's only like 2 or 3 in that second tier. And then the third tier is the rest. Right. So it's it's a big difference.
Right. It's a big difference. So like you're playing against Flutie one day. The next day you're playing against Anthony Cavillo. One day, then next game you playing against Matt Dunnigan. You playing against Tracy Ham, Ricky Ray. So, from Jeff Garcia, like I said, I've seen all these guys in that 23-year span, that if you can look at their careers, they're all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Not only saying, the Austins, right? And I might be missing some guys, right?
Yep.
And from the start of your career, you play against Joe Powell. You play against Tommy Clemens, J.C. Watts. I mean, there's just the names that I was watching and growing from and playing against throughout my whole career. It really lets you know that the level of competition at the quarterback spot, you had to come and play.
Yeah, you withstood the test of time.
Yeah,
3 years.
You had to come and play. Yeah.
You were a grandfather while you were playing.
That's right.
Didn't you have a daughter in college as well?
I did.
You had a daughter in college?
My oldest daughter, Amanda, was I a junior? Might have been a junior. Or she was born in 1985, the first year I went to the CFL. So, yeah. So my senior year, I had a daughter. And then –
So she would have been 23. 22,
yeah.
23. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then before I left, I was, year 19? I was having a grandson. And she was in high school. So, yeah, I was a true grandfather actually playing. So, I mean, like, at the end of the day, I'm glad that, we made decisions based on, what's best for our family, to have the child and not abort it. I mean, it could have been any direction that we could have went if we didn't have the right mindset to be able to understand. And even in our own experience, I mean, I think part of why we allow her to have it is due to the fact that I aborted a child.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I don't think the mother ever forgets it, and the father never forgets it. And so we learned that lesson. We weren't going to do that again.
Yeah.
Even if it was our own child. And I'm very thankful that, like I said, I was in the right mind to be able to say, no, we're going to help you. We're not going to take over. And then to have the blessing of your grandson in your life, he's part of your bloodline.
Yeah.
You can't even question what's the right thing to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And he just graduated high school. He's a soccer player.
Oh, that's awesome.
A skateboarder, right? He lives in BC. His name is Justice. And it's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. You got so much to be proud of. You've accomplished so much. Your brothers have accomplished much. Your sisters. Mm-hmm. Just your whole family has been a family of excellence. Right. We all have our challenges and all have our hurdles. Right. But when you can do it, and for as long as you've done it, your brother's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to do these things and accomplish what we've accomplished and what your family has accomplished, and then to be able to sit around and enjoy it now and give back and help others, it's truly special. And I see that, 9 out of 10 times that you're posting either on the golf course or at a charity event.
Right.
Right. And that's special that you continue to give back and you continue to be a positive influence to all those. And, I remember 2014 Grey Cup, after the game, you came and hung out with me and my family and everyone, right? That was very special for me because I've always looked up to you, right? I've always, that's really cool for me. Like, Damon Allen just came and hung out with the family. Like, my dad was, super excited. And so just to have that experience, and among other times that we've hung out.
Right.
But, that's special. And I don't think that you can ever understand what you mean to someone else when you just do things genuinely.
Right.
Right.
No, I know exactly where you're going and what that means, because at the end of the day, it's part of who I am, is how I was raised, and then at the same time, that very thing gives me joy. Right. It gives me joy to have a great amount of respect for other players that you enjoy, not only watch the play, but your heart, the joy in which you play. That's why I would, I know you're going to be successful and create the one of the most creative guys out there, especially at the receiving corps, when it comes to guys who've ever played and of doing something. And I like to support those kind of guys because, like I said, you're willing to give back, put a smile on people's face, and those things are important. And I'm pretty sure I can look back from meeting your family and spending time with them. That's where they get it from. And so when I looked at your family and enjoyed your time in 2014, I was seeing my own family. Which is it's really cool, right? To be able to see, how someone is raised, and then you get to know, the kind of person they are.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're willing to do a lot for, people like that, right?
Yeah.
Because I know your heart. I know where your heart is, right?
That's it. You got anything big going on?
Anything big going on?
Anything coming up that you're looking forward to that the people need to know about?
Wow. I just think that once, you prepare for a lot, right? For being very creative, my girlfriend's been very creative in her business and trying to foresee the future and where it goes, and she's helped me with that because you got to prepare for different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, you're trying to be creative in the things you're trying to do, and look at, different ways to raise money, to gather money, to make a living, and all those things. Who knows where I'll be next year. I might be a real estate agent. I don't know what I may be, but I'm willing to look at those things, but still keep it in the contents of the things that make me happy, right?
Yeah.
Golf makes me happy, so that's why I run all those golf tournaments, right? It's part of the give back, but it makes me happy as well, right? And so I still have to be creative in a way that the things that I enjoy doing, and trying to figure out and be creative enough to how can I make money at doing it.
Yeah.
It keeps me young and those things. But yeah, I think once we get away of the new wave of how we're going to live life, and sometimes it's very difficult to see, foresee what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But the only thing we can do is, prepare, because it's giving you a glimpse of how it's going to be. And so the glimpses is the one that's, making us prepare and being creative in how the world's going to run the rest of the way.
That's it.
So I think we just have to continue to grow, learn new things.
Always.
Right.
Be a constant learner.
To be a constant learner. And I think that's the one thing that I try to do every day. Continue to evolve.
How can people get a hold of you or stay up to date with you? Social media.
Through my my website.
Yep.
www.d9allen.com is the one way. My other way is through Twitter and Instagram, Damon Allen 9. I use Twitter and Instagram as my method of social media. My show, like I said, I do my show out of the Instagram, Damon Allen Live, Damon Allen 9. We go live on that. That's a way to keep up with me. And so, those things, you're still trying to learn how to use social media to its greatest, right?
That's it.
I'm the one that's still trying to learn how to use it to its fullest.
That's it,
but
man.
Those are social media platforms that I'm on.
Well, I appreciate you coming through. It's been a blessing. Enjoy to hear the stories.
And I definitely want to have you on mine. So,
awesome.
Be prepared to get that Instagram inbox message.
Thursday at 4.
Thursday, yeah, that's right.
Thursdays at 4.
That's right. So
yeah, I know. I'm glad that I can share the platform. I'm glad I can support other guys, and it's good that I tell a lot of these guys now. I'm like, dude, once you're done, you no longer compete with each other. You can only support each other.
You're right.
Right. And I think I have.
And there are times that you have to, after you're done, you realize too, it's the sporting business. You're done, right? They're all the next guy they're trying to promote this on their team, right? And even though you may have all this status, it's really going to come down to the amount of work that you put in, right, to keep yourself relevant in those things. And so, yeah. Some teams do a better job with their alumni. Other teams are like they forgot that you played for them.
That's it.
But that's all good. That don't stop me from moving forward and evolving and doing your things. That, like I said, at the end of the day, that puts a smile on my face. That's the most important, to have that peace and that joy about waking up and trying to create something.
Yeah. Well, I have something for you soon, man. I definitely love to talk to you about it. I'm be calling you soon.
Yes.
I'm launching something here pretty quick, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be new, and it's definitely creative. So,
all right,
you're going to enjoy
I know you will be. I can't wait to hear.
Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. This is another edition of Lulu Logic Podcast, and we out.
We're out of here.